What's up, everybody? It's Brandon, and I'm back with another episode of the Fast and the Furious saga. Yeah, we're just going to call it an episodic review at this point because I'm just churning them out left and right. It feels like episodes, but that's okay. We love these little guilty pleasures that are the Fast and the Furious, or at least most of us do. Even the people that are hard on this franchise, for the most part, low key, when you catch them, maybe they got a couple drinks in them and they can really be themselves. Like, okay, look, I wasn't going to tell anybody, but deep down, I know I complain about them all the time for whatever reason, because there's always that cool thing to hate, but I actually like at least a few of them. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Fast has been the fun thing to rip on, and can I say, I myself included have done that somewhat recently because, again, that fatigue, right? That fatigue that I've talked about in other reviews. But we're finally on to what is probably the most popular in the franchise. We are on to what made the Fast and the Furious the Fast and the Furious. It seems like ever since the fifth one came out, and it kind of gave it a rebirth with its over the topness that it just bought into, to where it wasn't, just like, oh, like we're not, I mean, it's not that over the top, trying to be pretentious along with doing the over topness. It just was like, hey, look, we know we're being ridiculous, and that's okay. And as the audience, we were like, you know what? I can probably buy into that too. Somewhere down the line, it seemed to wane for a lot of people, but here, it certainly did not, because it had not wore out his welcome yet. This was a new, fresh start for this beautiful franchise. Yeah, I called it beautiful. It can be at times. Jekyll and Hyde, right? Anyways, let's jump into Fast Five. Let me just say, much like I talked about in the fourth one, what they tried to do in the fourth one and failed, to me, they then came back and did right in this one. And that is so damn true. I can't harp on that enough. Because there's even sometimes, I mean, I guess from like a nostalgia point of view, I want to watch 1 through 3 at least. Or at least the first two, I should say, bare minimum, because the first two ring home with my childhood the most. But every once in a while, this is one of those rare franchises where I'm normally a completist, where I wouldn't mind just kicking it off with 5, like just going in with the momentum of that style going forward. I've never done it, but I've thought about doing it because it is a whole new ball game when you get to this one. The racing, I'm sorry guys if you're in it just for the racing. Sure, there's elements of cars and shit, but it feels all gone just about, because we have transformed into something bigger, badder, and borderline meaner. The Fast and the Furious franchise would forever change with Part 5. Now, let me talk about these villains. I was harping on the fourth one, how I was like, oh god, the villains aren't all that good. Are the villains good here? No. We got the same kind of thing. But where that seems like it can be an asterisk of some kind, it is not actually. And the reason why is because we have Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Yes, The Rock gets inserted into this, if not his best role. For me, Pain and Gain. Absolutely love that movie. But he is fucking really damn great in this. He chews up the scenery. He's really buying into the overtopness, you can tell, just like everybody is. But he's just like, he's eating it up. He's like, this is we're doing one-liners and shit. This is me throwing it back and having fun 90s style. Or at least, even better, WWF, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. If you smell it, style. He's eating it up. He's loving it. And guess what? I think most of us are loving it too. Whereas I was upset because I was like, in the fourth one, I was like, man, I'm tired of seeing, not at least having the threat of cops on these motherfuckers. Because let's face it, in the first one, there was some type of threat in the movie of cops, but it was Brian O'Connor. It was Paul Walker leading the charge. So it didn't really feel as sinister. You were like, something's gonna, it feels like he's starting to get ingratiated into this crew. It feels like he could become friends with this crew. There wasn't an overall like, oh my God, the cops, Jesus type of threat. It was fine for what it was, but it wasn't like that. The second one, even more so, they're like working for the cops in the movie. The third one, the cops are irrelevant. Fourth one, it's like, okay, now we're back into the trenches with the cops with Brian O'Connor, and you're just like, I just don't really give a shit about the cops. Dwayne The Rock Johnson comes in the fifth one and makes the cops a formidable foe. You're worried about the cops. It's not just the cops being a threat. There's a guy at the front of those cops that's going to come in and fuck you up. I mean, there's even a scene where he fights Vin Diesel, and they could have shut it down right there, and he's cocky. He's like, nah, I got this. Like, let me finish it. Love that shit. And how about that fight? We'll talk about that more in a little bit. Yeah, as far as the opening, again, a great opening. That is one thing I do give the credit to 4, because we had not seen an over-the-top type of thing like that. That was the opening of 4 yet, and it really was like, oh, that kind of sparked something. Opening in this one, we're like, okay, another great opening, but let's see if they can continue to capitalize on it with more creative action set pieces, because I'm ready, at this point, to say, fuck it, let's go on this journey of ridiculousness. And they actually do in this movie. Then we get a lot of, not necessarily downtime, there's not a lot of action. It's just kind of putting the puzzle pieces in motion, and it's entertaining enough. And then, of course, we get everybody, the reunion. I love when they're calling out, like, we're going to need this, we're going to need this, we're going to need this. And as a fan of the prior movies, just seeing all the old faces from different movies even, like, popping up, where it's like, oh my God, yes, yes. Like, I remember watching it for the first time. It was just a great feeling seeing everybody, like, it's like, oh shit, there's Rome. Oh shit, there's Luda. Like, oh my God, Ludacris is back. Like, what the fuck? It was like, oh man, there's Gal Gadot's character. Like, looking at everybody come back. And then, of course, the other 2 guys, I forget their names, that were in the beginning of 4 and all that. The whatever the fuck, guys with the accents, we'll just call them that. Those are probably like my least favorite of like the characters that came back, and they're not as frontal, I guess, as the other characters, but still, it's cool enough to see them. But it's just fun. You're like, oh man, like it immediately sparks some fun into this movie, which the fourth one was lacking. Like, I actually had a smile on my face numerous times, even though it was just intense, if not more than the fourth one. And then from there, man, just watching everybody meet up again, it really established, again, family that the first one had. Because that is something that is special about the first one. You didn't get a whole lot necessarily about the behind the scenes of the crew. I mean, you got just enough to where like you kind of cared about like what they were doing, and you were like latched on to the characters, at least Dom and what he was trying to showcase there. But with like the barbecue and all that shit, it seemed like, their crew was real important to them. Their crew was bigger than life. They were a family. This is where this one like realizes that, and it's just like, okay, we got to really nail down this family thing. And not only did all these people come back, you can feel just through the family aspect and using that word family, the well had not run dry yet. It was cool at this point. It was just like, man, these guys are not only all meeting together, some of them weren't even in the same movies together, but they're just like all coming together in this awesome ball. And it's just like, man, and they're family, and you believe it. They got each other's back through thick and thin. And that was only, you knew it watching this movie. If they continued with this franchise, it was only going to grow more. And again, how I was saying, it sometimes sucks because like future movies can almost hurt older movies in the franchise. Like how they like in the fourth one, it's like, oh, they're bringing back people that are going to die. And like, they're like, oh, they're dead in the fourth one, but then they're going to come back. You don't want to let that affect your movie, but subconsciously, sometimes you can't help it. And this is a case where the future movie helps, because subconsciously, when I go back to this one, I can think about the future movies. I'm like, damn, that family's only going to grow and it's only going to get stronger. That really was amazing in this movie. And that was before. And I will say before, like I said, it just ran into the ground because it became a thing. It was like family. Like it became one note. It got stale. But we ain't stale yet, are we? This is where we're really getting the thick of things and really enjoying these crazy over-the-top action set pieces that really begin, like the last, 50 minutes of this movie are great. I love the action scene where Dwayne The Rock Johnson, raids their shit. Hobbs, I should say. Sometimes I can't help it. I can't not say the actor's name. You know who I'm talking about, though. But, when Hobbs goes up in there and just fucks shit up, and they has that fight with fucking Dom, I love that fight. It's just two big brute motherfuckers, just the best way I can describe it is just mauling each other. And it is fun to watch them rip into each other, even verbally, along with physically, and watching them attack each other. And everything coming full circle to where Dom ends up on top of him, and he's got a chance to do the same thing he's done before, where he can just bash dude's head in. He's got the wrench, it's all coming full circle, and he slams the ground next to him. I like that little touch to have that in there. In real life, I think Dwayne The Rock Johnson, when he was like, back off, I got this, when it looked like Dom was going to hit him in the head, the cops are probably going to shoot his ass. But, you know, again, there's a lot of stuff we forgive in this movie. And then after that, it leads into an ambush that's a lot of fun and, like, really, like, amps up the emotions a little bit. It shows you the danger that they could be in because they're hitting them with fucking bazookas and shit, rocket launchers. Like, all of Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Hobbs' crew just fucking evaporates, basically. They're just done. They're gone from this earth, just exploding from grenades. And watching, you know, like, Vin Diesel, dude, Dom, just coming over and like, hey, man, I got you. And you're just like, oh, my God, could Rock become a part of the family? It was just a whole exciting thing, man, that whole scene. And then The Rock kind of paying it forward, getting him back, where Vin Diesel, because he takes Vince back. It's another person I didn't mention that's back in this movie. It was cool to see him in the movie. He did end up dying in that scene. He's like, oh, you got to see my kid, Nico. That was a nice little touching moment. We named him after you, Dominic. So that was cool. And then Dom's just like, nah, man, fuck that. We're not getting these cars run away. We're going in. And then to see Dwayne The Rock Johnson, like, at least we kill that bastard because he fucked up my crew. And that's one of those moments where you're just like, damn. Because The Rock, just, I don't know, man. He's got that charisma about him here where it's just like you were waiting for somebody to say something, and of course he's the one that comes out, and Vin Diesel's like, really? You gonna follow me? Loved it. Love every bit about that. But another thing I love, when it was all said and done, tell me this doesn't seem like The Rock through and through, that he would be the guy to do something like that, but at the end of the day, he's like, I still gotta take your ass in, Toretto, and I love how they brought that back around. But before all that happens, we have that vault scene where they take all the money. And I gotta tell you, man, this is an awesome action set piece. Watching Diesel and Walker fucking, or just Dom and Brian, drag around this vault as it's smashing through cars, buildings, you name it, leading all the way to that little highway chase moment where, you know, Vin Diesel goes full on Steven Seagal, an executive decision. Now, you remember this deep cut? When he's basically an executive decision, all the guys are yelling down at Steven Seagal, and Steven Seagal does what he would never do, mind you, because everybody thinks he's the most selfish person on earth. They're all just like, we're not going to make it. And Steven Seagal's like, you are, and like takes that hatch where he's hooked to the plane, and then he fucking gets flung out. It's like a quick, like, oh my God, they killed Steven Seagal in almost the first act. Mind blowing as a kid. Vin Diesel does the same thing here because they use like the same line, we're not gonna make it. And Vin Diesel's just like, you are, because he's got to do some heroic shit. But guess what? This is where Vin Diesel is better than Steven Seagal, because he also lived, people. He also lived. And in emphatic fashion, because when he turns around the opposite way and he's swerving in and out, and that vault's just like scooting and smacking into fucking cars, and we're watching him flip up in the air. And then the final little maneuver he did where he turns real quick and the vault goes on the other side and it's tumbling, and then it smacks, and then out of nowhere it looks like it's about to fly off the bridge, and it rips Diesel's car, and then like Dom just jumps out at the last second and smashes into the bad guys. It's ridiculous. I know. It sounds dumb because I'm already ripping on the ridiculous nature of the movies before I even get to the later reviews, which I probably won't be as hard as you think I am. I won't be as hard as soon as you think I will. Because at this point, like I said, it didn't wear out its welcome. It was a cool breath of fresh air. They're buying into it. So it's not cringy. It's like, okay, we're along for the ride for this because you're along for the ride for this. This ridiculous nature of this film was much needed. It's a very fun action film. It's very well done. It's serious. There's that fucking, again, that word I like to use, camaraderie, where they bring everybody together. It puts a smile on your face. It's fun at times. It's menacing when it needs to be for a PG-13 movie. It checks all the boxes, man. This is a great action movie. You can't deny it. This is honestly one of the best action movies, I'd say, of the last 10, 20 years. Also, keep in mind, I'm a huge action movie fan, but I'm like Van Damme, Schwarzenegger, Stallone, or you can extend it to martial arts. You know, I'm not even going to leave Steven Seagal out there. I brought him up. I love old Steven Seagal. I do. Sorry. You know, martial arts, Jackie Chan, Jet Li, of course, Bruce Lee, like all those guys, like those type of action movies where there was a face. Like, that is my shit. Coincidentally, the one really action series I love nowadays is John Wick, because Keanu feels like a face. He feels bigger than the movie. He feels, you know, you're like, oh, he can actually do that. Or he's got the charisma to make you believe he can do that. These are the action movies I love, people. We're missing that nowadays. So keep that in mind. So, not a huge fan of newer action movies. This one it's top tier to me. No doubt about it. I love this movie. Can't say a score yet, but this is a damn good action movie. And it immediately made me excited to watch the oncoming, what the fuck? Oncoming onslaught of movies that I had a feeling would follow, and whew, for better or worse, boy was I not wrong. This is Fast 5, people. Be back at you with Fast 6. Woo! So many Fast and the Furious movies. See, I'm ghetto like that. I gotta scoot forward, and I didn't lean forward good enough to turn this off. I love y'all, man. I really do. See ya.